So,
The
yeah,
panelists who are joining in,
yes, ma'am.
do we need to wait for them?
No, no, no. I think it's just me and you for today.
Okay.
Right. So, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining. Also, thank you, to Dr. Rupa, for taking out your time on such short notice and joining this webinar. I am Amay, and I am the founder of the project KLIMA. That is an initiative under the UN Millennium Fellowship of 2023. Our project, I'll just introduce our project first. It's in consonance with UN's Sustainable Development Goal 12 that talks about responsible consumption and production, and UN's Academic Impact Principle 9 that is about sustainability. And so today we'll be broadly focusing on environment and climate related issues, and we'll discuss what universities and the people that are on universities, not just students, but faculty, staff, everyone can do to fight these issues that we face. And so we have a special guest today with us, Dr. Roopa Madhav. She's a distinguished legal scholar with extensive experience in the legal field. Her research interests include environmental law, regulatory governance, labor law, and human rights. And we are honored to have her as our guest. Um, Doctor, a brief background on Dr. Roopa Madhav's educational experience. She is a distinguished legal scholar with a PhD in law from SOS, University of London. She has done her LLM in public law, public service lawyering from New York University, and BLLB from National Law School of India, University, Bangalore. Her extensive experience in the legal field, having practiced law in the areas of labor law, service law, property law, commercial law, and family law before the courts in Mumbai and Bangalore. And her research interests include environmental law, regulatory governance, labor law, and human rights. And these, I believe, are broadly the issues we'll be talking about today. So we'll just begin with asking you, Dr. Rupa, the first question I'd like to ask you, just background about you. What inspired you to pursue research in environmental law, particularly?
Okay. So I was recruited to work on a project which looked at mapping water law reforms in the country. So it was part of a larger Swiss National Foundation exercise that was looking at a multi country study examining how water and legislations around water is being transformed. And this was in the mid 2000s. And some of that work, which went on for nearly a decade, led up to policy interventions, and it led up to some of us working with the Planning Commission to transform legislations. It was a very interesting exercise, which took me away from law in many ways, because the minute you begin to talk about a resource like water, it also means that you look at it from an interdisciplinary perspective. And so I moved to look at the entire sector of what it means to think about water as a resource. And that interest has now taken me a little further to looking at mining and mineral resources. And for the last 5 to 6 years, I've been looking at mining and sustainability and how we can actually push this. In the midst of all this, we're looking at climate change as a running theme within environmental law. We've, from NLUD, been running for the last 2 years a climate justice summer school. It's an online summer school, and if any of you are interested, you can apply in July next year. But the summer school attempts to bring students from both the global north and the global south and have teachers from both the global north and south to build a conversation. So it's about seeing the subject from different perspectives, but it's also about trying to get a conversation going between the global north and the global south. Yeah.
Right. So, Uh, so, ma'am, based on your okay, before I continue, I forgot to mention that this is an open discussion, and if anyone has any questions, you may to click the toggle hand button on the screen, and you can ask your. I'll take your question. I understand that you worked in the mining sector. You researched on that and climate change. So, with regard to that, did I wanted to ask if any what are the issues, environmental issues that came up during your work in the mining sector, specifically in the mining sector, and the environmental issues and general climate change issues. I mean, I understand that mining leads to it does lead to some has some environmental effects and might contribute to climate change. But I was wondering if there's some specifics that we could get into.
Right. That's a good question as to what is it that we look at when we look at the mining sector. This is part of my PhD work, and so a large part of it was looking at the role of the state in regulating mining. And so the pursuit was to look at what we call the public trust doctrine within the legal field, to see how do mining administrators actually understand their role with regard to natural resources. So it was a very specific study examining and speaking to mining administrators on how they think about their role as regulators. But what may perhaps be interesting is that there are a range of issues that arise when we talk about mining, right? So there is the large scale mining that we know across the country. So if you're looking at coal as a sector, or iron ore as a sector, gold as a sector, these are mineral resources which are mined at a large scale. It needs a lot of investment, but it also needs a lot of land. So there's issues of displacement, of people being asked to leave. There are issues of pollution. So as soon as you say we are mining, you also have a lot of waste that needs to be managed. So while there is an important resource that allows us to have a conversation like this, so steel is a very important resource. It allows us to have devices. It allows us to have these communications, but it also means that it leads to pollution somewhere else. So how do you manage this? And large mining companies are cognizant of the fact that they have a large footprint in terms of environmental impacts. And so they do respond to the challenges that come up with regard to environment and mining sector. But there are a whole range of minor minerals, or what we call medium scale mining industries, which are not able to actually respond to the challenges of what happens with mining. A clear example is perhaps sand mining. Many of you may be aware of sand mining as an activity that happens largely as an unregulated, illegal activity, leads to destruction of riverbeds over a period of time. So these are the more challenging areas. So when we think about mining, a lot of the times we think that large companies need to be regulated. In fact, they are very well regulated. They're aware of the need to respond to environmental concerns. But it's the smaller companies, medium and the minor small scale companies that are unable to, simply because of the scales at which they operate, that they need to, or we need to think of a collective approach to handling some of the environmental concerns that arise from their mining operations.
Right. So, ma'am, as I understand it, this is not just for mining, but in general, if there's certain economic activities. So, for the economy, there is a trade-off that comes in the with the like as in the cost of environmental harm. So, for example, when there's mining, the medium sector mining that kind of contributes more to climate change and to environmental hazards, so to speak. So, and this is a really I wouldn't say controversial, but it's a difficult decision for the authorities to decide whether to develop the economy or uh, to tackle environmental issues. And within this, I think it's really hard to decide really, but also there's this issue of being a developing country and being a developed country. And as a developing country, we do need to invest more into economic development rather than what the developed countries are focusing on, that is climate change and environment. And is there? I wanted to ask you if there is a. Also, there's one more thing. So the students that are here today are not just from our university; they are from across India. They're different universities from across India. So yeah, and so if there's any specific state or you'd like to address, you can ask the question by raising your hand. And yeah, so if so right, so I was gonna ask if they what are the what we could actually, what is your opinion on what we as India should be focusing on and how much, and what this trade-off of economic development to environmental issues really means.
The trade offs are an interesting point because here we are saying that there are negative externalities to every activity that happens in terms of development. In fact, every activity that you set out to do will have certain negative externalities, and do you build that into your costs and your costing of every project? So, answering your question about how do we think about these trade-offs? Most emerging countries and the ones that are rapidly emerging, which is China and India, have decided that we will, for the next 20 years, prioritize our development. So that's a choice that they've made very consciously. That it's not until 2050 that we will actually turn things around. We have under our NDCs, that's the nationally determined contributions, committed to certain things. We've said we will move towards renewables as swiftly as we can. They've committed to creating green jobs. They've committed to creating certain schemes that will enable for greater absorption of carbon, carbon trading as an option. So there are many things that have been committed under the NDCs, but very clear commitment towards continuing the development path. So the question we have to ask is, in the Western nations where they are already so-called developed, there is a conversation happening about what is the growth model and what is the development model that we are actually working with. So, for all of you students who are listening in, there is a very good book called Donut Economics, which brings in a whole idea of questioning the growth model itself. And there's a new conversation that's happening. So, there is the growth as we know it. There is a green growth model, which is to say that we can shift systems to become more sustainable and change our systems to become green. And so that's really a more acceptable form. But there's also a conversation that is talking about degrowth. Can we stop looking at GDPs and can we stop looking at growth as our targets for the future? So the then the question is what replaces it, and so many of them are bringing up ideas such as what Bhutan is doing with its constitution, and so ideas of looking at a happiness index as opposed to a GDP index, right? So these are conversations that are currently alive, and it'll be useful for some of you to actually pick up on these and read more.
Right. So I think it is clear that India and we will focus on development right now as a nation. But I think, I wouldn't comment on if it's right or wrong. I think as students, we can definitely, we don't have to stick to that. We can play our part in doing in taking action to prevent environmental harm in any way that we can. And So if I was wondering if you have any idea as to how universities can play a role in promoting sustainable practices. So, for example, there was recently a few years ago, the Maharashtra government banned plastics, and I think it has helped a lot since then, banning plastic polythene bags in particular because they were used by a lot of people and they were basically not recycled. There was plastic bags on the streets and everywhere. It was just a mess, garbage on the roads. And since the ban, it has helped a lot in making the environment more clean and less polluted. So, are there similar such practices that universities in India particularly can adopt, considering, for example, our college itself, National Law University, Delhi. So I just went a few days back. I went to the college that is just 5 minutes walking from here, GGSIPU, that is Indraprastha University. And I noticed that they have a fountain in the when you enter the college. There's a fountain, and it's always running, so water is always going, and it's I believe it's a waste of energy in some way, but it also helps in beautification of the campus. And I did not see anyone raise any issue about it when I asked a few of the students and the staff. Uh, but in our college, the fountain I have observed is never running except 1 or 2 days in a year when some guest or some big event is taking place. So I wanted to know if what your views are, what if we should be following the IP model or the NLU model, and any other suggestions or that students and any advice or anything that students or faculty or staff can make any efforts to well, the university itself, the authorities can make a policy for the university that can help fight climate change.
Yeah, universities are a space for doing many of these things, and there are many suggestions. In fact, what you've picked up on is great. Single-use plastic. Can you avoid single-use plastic as students? Can you stop buying single-use plastic? Can you speak to the canteen and the Yamul store to make sure they don't stock single-use plastic goods for sale? Um, there's also a good question about the fountain that you raise. The fountain has two separate issues to it. Given the issues around running a motor in Dwarka, it may be wise to keep it running because the motors go bad if you don't run it. So there's that issue. But does the fountain actually help with pollution? We have a running sprinkler. And when the pollution actually stays, the air pollution stays the way it does, the water particles can actually disperse some of the air pollution. So it may have multiple reasons for a running fountain. So you may want to think about it differently than seeing it as a waste of energy. What may be useful to do as university students is to actually do a green audit of your campus and see if the campus can actually also turn into a community space for many things. Can a campus which has so many acres of land actually have solar panels, which then feeds back into the grid? Yeah? So there are things that a university campus can actually creatively think about. Can you contribute to the surrounding communities in terms of how they think about the environment itself? So these are spaces for conversation, and I don't think we're doing enough, frankly. There's scope for more.
Uh, yes, I think Boywob has a question. Yeah, Boywob.
Good evening, ma'am. Ma'am, I want to know that how we can do the green audit in our campuses. Can you please explain it?
Sorry, green audit would need some support because there are technical aspects to it. But you can do a basic audit to see what are energy expenditures. You can see what are some of the spaces where water is not being conserved. Can we do water conservation on campus? Waste and leakage at various taps in the toilets. Do you have someone you can complain to the minute you see a leaking tap? Fix all of these. What is the energy use? Should students be using the lift at every point? Can there be stairs that can be used at various points? Can you conserve on on the ACs that you run? So these are some of the things that you can do. But a good technical audit would need some support. You can always reach out to technicians in, say, IIT Delhi to help us with a proper green audit to see if the university is actually compliant and what is our carbon footprint. That's a question that you may want to do with some technical support.
Right. Thank you, Boyo. Thank you, ma'am, for that question. I hope that answers your question, Boyo.
Yes. Thank you, ma'am.
Right, ma'am. Also, on that point, apart from a green audit, I mean, we all as students acknowledge and we know, and it's not something that is new, but for a few years now, the same issue of the efficiency of the lifts, the ACs, the heaters, and like water heaters in the showers, etc., etc. The water coolers. There's an efficiency issue with all of these. Now that is something that we as students cannot control or cannot fix or have no way of solving these issues. But I wanted to know what we as students can do to actually fix some other environmental issues. So, what effort can students take and faculty? Not faculty as in these issues, but something that students can do and by themselves and with the faculty.
If you can just do waste and waste management on campus, that would be great. Even getting people to segregate waste has become a challenge. If you see the bins in the canteen, they don't clearly say which is a dry waste and which is a wet waste. And so everyone's mixing waste. Can you segregate waste? Can you do some composting on campus? Can you also do a kitchen garden so that students also have some engagement with nature? Um, an audit you can do as students. You can bring a full report to the administration and suggest to them how can you make this more efficient. All of us are stretched for time for various reasons, but if students have the time to actually pull together an audit report, I'm sure the administration will actually think about it. The other thing is if you all can help with putting together a green campus policy document, that would also contribute to thinking on how we rethink the institutional aspects on environment. But on personal choices, there are many things that students can do. Can you choose sustainable clothing? Can you choose public transport over private transport? So these are things that, can you speak to your own families about the importance of doing things more sustainably? These are things that each one of you as individuals must actually contribute to. I hope that helps.
Yes, ma'am. That actually answers the question and adds to what things I've already thought about. There's some new suggestions there and useful things that I think we will take further. And well, I'm really just curious to know what issues other universities are facing. So, if anyone has any questions, otherwise, I think that's all we have time for today. But if anyone has questions, you may ask to Dr. Rupa. Um, all right, then I think. That's all
Ma'am,
for, yeah, one second. I think Boivo
uh,
back a question.
yes, yes. Ma'am, can you please suggest me how we can do research on environment? If in our college write later, we write the project of law related things, but we never write the paper on environment. And also we want to enhance our research skill. If you can suggest any courses we can do online or offline, which will end up good, and we enhance good research skill. Can you please explain that? And because you are a professor of research, I think you are the best person who can answer that question, ma'am.
Well, to be honest, there aren't very many quality courses online for Indian students that would help you with research skills. Uh, but there are some which, of course, are the usual suspects. Coursera has a few research related courses. There is an excellent podcast which is run out of Oxford University, which talks about research methodologies. So you can listen to those podcasts, but those are at a higher level. It's actually pitched for PhD level students. But primarily, if you can just work with your projects with a great deal of honesty. What we find is just a shoddy 48-hour project that's put together and it's handed in by most students. If every opportunity to write and to think about a project is done with sincerity and it's done with a great deal of creativity, I think those research outputs would be great. We are here to provide guidance. If you have real questions around how do I think about a question, how do I frame a question, how do I put together an empirical component to my research, all of these are elements that we can absolutely assist you with. Um, I, if I'm not mistaken, there are UGC online UGC video uh, outputs that talk about research methodology. I've not had a chance to actually review them to suggest whether they are of good quality, but it may be worthwhile for some of you to actually look at it to see if it's useful.
I hope that answers your question, Boivo. Uh, right. The
Yes.
research actually reminded me of another thing that happened recently. This week, U.S. President Joe Biden presented the White House National Medal for Technology and Innovation to an Indian American scientist Ashok Gadgil, for providing life-sustaining resources to communities around the world. He is a distinguished professor of civil and environmental engineering at UC Berkeley, who has developed low-cost solutions to some of the developing world's most intractable problems, like safe drinking water technologies, energy efficient stoves, and ways to make efficient energy lighting affordable. And I think this really shows how the solutions to conserve environment and efforts to contain the ill effects of climate change have become priority for most nations across the world. So I think, yeah, something that our university can also, in the legal field, contribute in some way, or the legal or policy, uh, to these similar issues, uh, at least as far as the city Delhi or India is concerned, because I think there is a lot we as students can, well, in terms of research, contribute. Um, right. So, if you have anything to add, ma'am, or any questions from anyone, then
I think there's a
please.
question in the chat box. It says sustainable mineral exploration is costly. So how do we implement it in our country and what kind of environmental policies are changed? Yes, sustainable mineral exploration requires a lot of investment. And what we do know is that only large companies are able to do sustainable mineral exploration. Smaller companies can't seem to factor in the negative externality costs into their mining operations. So you're right. So we have to think about a cooperative model which allows for smaller companies to come together to manage their um, waste and waste management related issues. So this is about being creative in terms of thinking about solutions for the smaller companies. The larger companies are able to do sustainable mineral exploration. It just needs the will from the top management to pursue that.
I hope that answers your question. We have one more question from Sujan, I believe. Sujan, you
Yeah,
can go ahead. Yeah,
yeah. Uh, Hello. Uh,
yeah, you're audible. Yeah, Sujan, you can
yeah.
ask.
India is a developing country. The Indian mine industry is one of the biggest mine industry in the world. Why India is not totally adapted for sustainable mining in India?
We do have sustainable mining in India, and we are not the largest mining country in the world. Um, we do have what's called a sustainable mineral development framework, which has been put together by the Indian Bureau of Mines. And we now have what is called a star rating system within the mineral mining industry. So every company needs to comply with the rating that is provided by the Bureau of Mines. If they don't comply, if their star rating falls, then it's likely that their license will be cancelled. So, in the formal sector of mineral resources and mining, we do have a fairly regulated space as regards sustainable mining. It is in the informal sector and in the smaller sector that we are not able to enforce this. And there are a large number of mines which don't get covered by the Indian Bureau of Mines. So that is really the challenge, and we are looking at how we can actually respond to some of these issues.
I hope that
Thank
answers your
thank you.
question too. Right,
Yeah, thank you.
right, ma'am. Also, uh, in continuation of that, uh, I wonder if uh, I wonder if there's any difference there are any different ways which developing countries take the issue of mining, because I believe they are able to produce I mean produce lesser pollution by doing the same amount of activity and producing even better output. So what are those methods that they adopt, and what is actually limiting India from doing that?
So I wouldn't say we are far behind in terms of global best practices. There are many companies that are attempting to do the same or are familiar with the conversations across the world on how to do good mining. So large companies like the Tatas, the Adanis, the coal sector, which is largely our public sector undertaking, are more or less compliant with the global best practices. It's so what is it that's missing perhaps is does it trickle down to other smaller units, and that is a conversation that's perhaps not happening. But we have a fairly well informed sector which is familiar with what's happening across the world. So if you speak to people from the Indian Federation of Mining Industries, FIMI has a chapter here in Delhi. They are familiar. They are familiar with all of the best practices that are happening in Australia, Canada, UK, South Africa, which are the bigger mining countries across the world. So um, those conversations are very much alive.
Um, Ma'am, I believe within those developed countries as well, they don't face these issues of trickle down. So it's just that most of these countries, if I'm not wrong, be the United States, Australia, they have so they don't have these issues for smaller mining corporations. So what is it that they did differently?
So what is happening is that there is a range of illegality that's happening. There are mines that perhaps don't go through a formal process, unlike in say Australia or Canada or the UK, where the regulatory framework is very strict. Right, so you will not be able to open a illegal mine in any of these countries. So we are failing on that count. We're failing on how we regulate the mining sector itself. How do we actually regulate MSMEs? How do we regulate the smaller sector? There we don't seem to do effectively, and that's also because the regulator in India is somewhat strapped. The framework doesn't allow for enough funds to be given for inspectorates. They don't have jeeps to travel into the wilderness of where mining is being done to check who's doing what. They may be aware at some level about what is happening, but you don't have inspectors on the ground checking, reporting back, finding. And there is that element of corruption, which means that everyone gets involved: someone in the district, the police officer, the mining sector, and so all of those then become another set of challenges. So these are our systemic, structural or systemic challenges that we face, which is unique to a developing country as opposed to the developed world, where mining has a much more rooted institutional framework within which they're working. Yeah.
Right, ma'am. I think it is. I agree with you on the point that there are these uh, problems of structural issues that I think developing countries do face them. However, there are certain developing countries that don't. So, for example, China. There's China. There's also the degree varies from one country to another. But I believe it all comes down to the people. It is the structure. So even when it comes to not just mining, be it environment issues, be it the rules and regulations on in this college, I think when the rules were not so strict, I think people adhered to them, and I think as they made more rules and more things to follow and more things more strict, I think people found it hard to be in line with them. So I think it's just that issue, but developing countries don't face that issue, and so there's no corruption and all that. Uh, and as students also have observed that, well, since there are more rules and it's harder to follow them. So that is, I think, one challenge we need to overcome. And even when it comes to climate change, especially in developing countries, I believe the change needs to come from within and not from the authorities. We need to, I believe, take actions, take it onto ourselves to protect the environment. And so, right.
I agree, but on climate change, I think we're stuck on the whole issue of common but differentiated responsibilities. So there are countries like India which are saying we are not the cause of what has happened, and you have contributed for many decades, and now let us do what we need to do to grow. So this is a conversation that will take us nowhere. So while the developed countries need to meet us halfway, we also need to meet them halfway by saying, we will rethink our development models, and we will contribute to ensuring that we don't reach the tipping point which we are headed towards.
Right. So I think we can wrap it up now. If there are any more questions, we're open for one last question if anyone has any. Otherwise, we'll wrap it up. Right. I think so. We can. I think that's all for today. Thank you, Dr. Roop, and thank you everyone for joining on such short notice. And I hope we had a fruitful discussion on climate change and Well, really enlightening discussion because of Dr. Rupa. I am confident we are all more aware and conscious now of the issues, and we are motivated to take action to make the environment better. Thank you once again for joining.
Thank you, everyone, and good luck with the rest of the webinar.
Thank you.
Hello everyone. I want to add one more thing. The next session will be start from 7:30. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Next session is same link now.
Yes, yes, the link is same.
Yeah, the link will be the same. Join at 7:30. Thank you. Good evening, sir. Sir, we are waiting for participants are joining. Can we wait few minutes? Sir, you are not audible, sir. No, sir, you are not audible. Hello. Sir, please unmute your mic. We will be starting in 5 minutes, waiting for more participants. Sir, you are not audible. Hello. Hello.
Am I audible to you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are audible, sir.
Now I'm audible. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now I've joined with
Hello.
my phone.
Sir, can I start? Hello, everybody. Now we have very
Yes.
special guest speaker with us, Dr. Rajeev Kumar Srivasta, a distinguished environment scientist with extensive experience in legal field and industry. Once again, we will focus on environment and climate change related issues and will discuss the student at universities can do to help fight those. It will be a Q&A based discussion to please don't hesitate to ask questions throughout this session. Dr. Rajeev Kumar Srivasta completed his PhD degree in chemical engineering from IIT Delhi in 1993 with specialization in environmental engineering. He has a vast experience of industry and academy. He has completed more than 50 consultancy projects for reputed companies like NTPC, RSMML, etc., as well as other organizations such as UPSIDE, etc. Presently working as professor and department head of environmental science, GB Pant University, Patnagar, Uttarakhand. He has guided 30 MSc and 18 PhD students of environmental science, Department of Industrial Pollution Control. Predomination, biodiversity, etc. Completed in progress 13 major international and national R&D projects as principal investigator. His professional expertise include environmental impact assessment and pollution monitoring, industrial pollution control and environmental management plan, etc. Yes, sir. Sir, please start your
Okay.
discussion.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
First of all, I would like to thank Mr. Vaibhav Majumdar for giving me this opportunity to interact with the students. And I always feel pleasure while interacting with the students. Now, I think today's webinar is scheduled on the climate change. What is the theme and name of the webinar today?
Sir, name is KLIMA. The project
Climate.
name is
Oh,
KLIMA.
so
It is a
climate itself is a Greek word, and
yes,
this clima means climate, right? So
yes, sir.
nowadays we are feeling itself, ourselves, you all are feeling changes in the climate, changes in the weather, and we are listening news by newspaper, TV, and all this thing. Ki some area has sudden flooded with the water, whereas earlier there was no flood, and some area get affected by the drought conditions. So this all is due to the consequences of the climate change. Now, recently last month, G20 event was held in our country. Our country hosted this, and almost all the session was directly or indirectly linked with the climate change, right? So this is such an issue where all the industries, all the companies, all the nations, and at a larger scale, continental scale, everyone is realizing the impact of climate change, and there is no option. We have to work for mitigation of this climate change because the day which we are experiencing and the predicted temperature which is expected in last 20 years, last 50 years, it is a really very alarming, very alarming. And as initially I told, we all are experiencing. It is not like a story we have heard from our grandfather, grandmother, and our ancestor. There was a this, there was a that. So now question comes what we understand and how you have to face. So I know you people belong to the law university. So your thrust,
Sir, So
Yes.
there are various
Also,
university
the-
students, not
all are
only
from
law, but also there are students from few Pune University Department of Management
minus
also,
department. Yes,
and
within
other few students from DU also. So,
Achha. They are from other branches of sciences and all these things, right? Chalo.
yes, sir.
Very good. So now if we look about the temperature, we assume that ki after 1750 year, right, AD, at global level, industrialization and urbanization has taken place slowly, and by 1900, 1900 AD, the industrial development has taken a speed, right? If we go back from 1900 AD to 1800 year back, 1800 year back from 1900, so there is a increase of temperature is a between 4 to 5 degrees centigrade. This temperature variation also due to the latitude and longitude where we exist at the globe, whether we are northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere, or in between tropical line. But these are there are various factors. We can't say a particular this 4.2% increase of temperature. But what I wanted to say, when you go back 1800 year back from 1900, increase of temperature was observed 4 to 5 degrees centigrade. But now, what scientists or IPCC has predicted that key from 2000 to 2100 means within 100 years, expected increase in temperature will be around 4 to 5 years. So what we observe in 1800 back from 1900 in 1800 years, now 1900 to 200 again 100 years you can count it. So that increase of temperature we are going to observe within 100 years from 2000 to 2100. So now this is a big challenge. We all know the increase of yes, why
Sir,
was in that?
what is the estimate by the environmentalists? What will be the increasing of temperature in next few 15 to 100 year?
What? Oh, same thing I am saying. Na? Ki by
Yes, sir.
2100 there will be increase of temperature by 4 to 5 degrees centigrade from benchmark of 2000, 1st January 2000. So within 100 years, this temperature is expected as per IPCC. Now, due to increase in temperature, what will be the consequences? We all know that this increase of temperature is going to change our rainfall pattern, our atmospheric conditions, melting of glaciers, and El Nino effect, La Nino effect. Plenty of the effect is governed by the climate change. Earlier, we were talking about the global warming, right? But now we are talking about the climate change. There is a difference between the global warming and climate change. Some of the scientists feel that this climate change is due to the global warming. So why I'm saying there is a difference between global warming and climate change. When we talk about global warming, it itself gives an indication that temperature is increasing, warming. Warming is taking place. But in climate change, temperature is also increasing and temperature is also dropping very low. On TV news and newspaper or by some articles, we listen that this is the coldest day of last 20 years, coldest day of last 80 years, coldest day of last 10 years. It means whatever the temperature was 12 years back, 20 years back, 50 years back, now this year temperature has come down. So it means it is not warming. If only warming is there, then temperature has to increase. So that's why the world climate change coin. And this climate change is a very big issue. If we will not solve it, if we will not care it, then the consequences which we are going to face or our the future generation children will face will be very, very devastating. So that's why you might have heard that India commitment is that by 2070 we will make net zero emission. Here net zero emission means net carbon dioxide emission in the zero sense. So we had to certainly go switch over from our fossil fuels to the alternate energy. What is the alternate energy? Alternate energy, we have to switch over to the solar energy, we have to switch over to biofuel energy, we have to switch over to the electric vehicles and various other options we have to find out where there is no use of the fossil fuel, petroleum product. Because this fossil fuel is responsible for generating carbon dioxide as well, of course, in less quantity, as well SO2, NOx, and other gases by its burning. So we have to opt for the go for the clean energy, as well as we can say it the green energy. So only by adopting green energy and clean energy, we will be able to minimize our air pollutant emission, which is responsible for causing global warming. Global warming itself is a very big phenomena, and under this, we all know that the sun emits the insulation energy, and it is absorbed by and this magnetosphere is around 60,000 away from our globe Earth, and gamma rays, X rays, these all are absorbed in the magnetosphere. After that, the UV visible, it come to the our globe, sun, and this UV visible light again we get it the short wave radiation, and after striking it on the globe, it is converted into the long wave, right? The long wave has less energy. So since it short wave radiation strike on the UV rays strike on the our Earth surface, when it re-radiated back to the troposphere or in the atmosphere, then again this radiation is absorbed by the gases which are surrounding the globe. We call it what is the atmosphere? The atmosphere is nothing. It is the envelope of gases around the globe. So this gases work as a greenhouse gas. This work as a greenhouse gas. Why we call greenhouse? Often I ask with the student. Green itself is a good indicator of environmental friendly things. As I mentioned that green energy means the energy which is a not emitting pollutant in very high quantity. So then greenhouse gas, so it means it should be in favor of the environment. But we call it greenhouse gas because the phenomena which take place in our greenhouses, glass houses, where we propagate or grow some commercial vegetables, some commercial flowers, which has a very good commercial demand. For this purpose, we use the greenhouse. The same, the in that greenhouse, again the short wave radiation enter because this is a transparent greenhouse. You might have seen greenhouses at various places and glass houses at various places. So it allowed to enter the short wave radiation, but after striking on the surface, when this radiation goes back, then it is converted into the long wave. And this long wave radiation again trapped by the greenhouse inside the greenhouse by glass and all. So then again it re-radiated back to the surface. So their temperature increased. Depending on the greenhouse quality and mandate for which purpose we are making, we can increase the temperature in greenhouse from 7 to 10 degrees centigrade. Again, depend on the where location is a fixed. So it means 7 to 10 degrees centigrade more temperature we get in the our greenhouse, which is used for mainly for the agricultural purposes. So it means if outside temperature is a 20 degrees centigrade ambient temperature, and any crop we are growing in the greenhouse, we are getting at least 30 degrees centigrade. So it means in the crops which grown in the summer season, we can grow in the winter season also by help of the greenhouse. So that's why like this phenomena is done by the gases which are surrounding the globe. So that's why we call it greenhouse gases. We might have you might have observed that in the car when it is standing on the road without any shade, and when we go to sit it inside, so immediately its temperature is very high, very hot. It looks like a oven. Immediately we down the glass, window glass, door glass, right? So after that, again when cross ventilation take, temperature get down, right? So it means this glass is also working as a greenhouse phenomena, which is used in the used for the agriculture production and all these things, right? So in fact, in greenhouse phenomena, there is a big science. Since time is 30 minutes, and I am already almost on the bed due to the some health issues, fracture in the leg. But Voivo called me, then I find time to just spare some moment with you, right? So,
Thank
like,
you so much, sir, because
uh,
you
so,
joined in such a short notice,
short
and
note.
you are not well.
Yes, yes, yes.
Thank you, sir.
So, I am. So now, if you look to the on a global level, so one third of our global population, one third of the global population live in the coastal area, right? Seashore at global level, from seashore to within 60 kilometers, right? Seashore to 60 kilometers, our one third world population live. Why live? Because earlier, we go to our the ancestral time long back, there was no mode of communication except the boat, except the ship, or other method. There was no aeroplane, there was no railway track, there was no highways, there was almost negligible, right? So mode of transportation was only river, mode of transportation was only sea. So that's why if you look in India, our almost major city, mega city, they all are located either on the sea, near very close to seashore, or at the bank near to the river bank. Because from one place to other place, we have to move through the boat, ship, like this. Now, if you look one third of population, And we all know that this increase in temperature by 4 to 5 degrees centigrade by within 77 year by 2100, it is going to melt the glaciers which are logged due to the temperature, low temperature. So now once temperature increases, then certainly this ice will melt. And we also know that almost all the river ultimately join to the sea. The wind from all the areas, all the surroundings, your river will flooded. This water table will increase by melting of the glacier. Then ultimately it will go to the sea, ocean. And once its level increases, say 20 centimeter, then many of Iceland will be submerged in the sea, right? And many of the coastal area will be flooded with the water. So then what will happen? The human habitation will destroy. Then there will be no agriculture practices. And ultimately for survival, we require food. And we get food mainly from the agriculture field. So when there is, even if you say there are some vegetarians and some non-vegetarians, they can, yes, how? Bolo Bhajan.
Sir, can we human do anything to stop the melting glaciers?
Yes, we can do.
Yes,
Anna?
sir.
So
What we can do? Can you please
I think,
explain, sir?
Majumdar, it will
Yes,
be
sir.
better you write down the question which you people wanted to ask, and
Yes, sir.
just by completion, then you ask all the questions.
Oh, okay, sir.
I
Okay,
think
sir.
it will be better.
Okay, sir.
Because what happened, flow get disturbed.
Actually, sorry, sir. I thought the because it's Q&A question. In past session, we ask in between them. Uh,
Okay.
if you are not comfortable, we will
No, no,
ask
comfortable nahi.
after you
No, I
talk.
will come na, when I
Okay,
will
okay.
last I will touch what is the
Yes, sir.
mitigation of the global warming. The
Yes, sir.
most of the answer will be given there. है ना?
Okay, sir.
And that will
Okay,
be the
sir.
common answer for this.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
What I was saying, I forget what I was saying.
Sir, melting of glaciers, sir.
Yeah, melting of glacier, right?
Yes, sir.
So due to this melting of glacier, all the area will be flooded. Not only ocean, even river will be flooded. And and due to the high water level, the habitat which are at the river bank, the agriculture field which are on the river bank, they all will destroy. Once destroy, there is a no food. Ultimately, the major issue which we have to face the biodiversity. You might be knowing what is a biodiversity. In fact, in 1950, it was felt that by at world level, we have to protect the environment, but we cannot avoid the development. So, how to protect the environment and how to do development, they should be linked each other. It is like a balance, right? Ki we cannot survive only by protecting environment. If you say yes, we want to protect the 100% environment, then ultimately what have to do? We all have to go in the jungle, we have to go into the forest, and we have to live like our ancestors. But we can't do it. Now, once development is needed, so certainly for the development, little bit deterioration of environment will take place. So we have to make a balance where we can protect the environment as well as we can make a development in such a way which is not going to harm our environment, right? So this balancing is a very important issue. Under this, in 1994, our government of India decided and passed one act कि we have to we have to do environmental impact assessment for the industries, those who are going to set up, or the industry, those who are going for the modernization already existing, but going for the modernization, or the industry, those who are going for the expansion. So there in that 1994 regulation, there was a 32 type of industry which require environmental impact assessment. And based on this report, project proponent will get the environmental clearance, and only after getting the environmental clearances, it will start the foundation of the industry or make the boundary or any activity. He can do only after getting the environmental clearance. Now, this environmental clearance, it means environmental impact assessment is needed, and this environmental impact assessment report, which popularly we call it by EIA report, is assessed by a high-level committee at Government of India under the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. So there are around 12, 10 to 12, 13 experts, member of their own field, different field, because environment as such not a core subject. It is a multidisciplinary subject. So there is an expert of water pollution, there is an expert of air pollution, there is an expert of social sciences, there is an expert of economics, there is an expert of industries. So like this, all they evaluate the report, and based on this, they decide whether this industry can be given environmental clearance or not, subject to the condition that their observation is based on only that this industry is not going to destroy the environment. So if any activity is taking place, certainly there will be some environmental degradation, but these industries are adopting technology to control the pollution which they are going to emit. Later on, 2006, again this EIA notification was modified, and under this, power to the state government as well as central government is given. Under this notification, broadly industries are categorized in A category and B category. A category needed environmental clearance from central level committee, and B category industries needed from state level expert committee. So these are some mitigation measures which government is taking place, and people are get aware of this thing. So in 1950, as I was saying, it was felt that there is a urgent need of the synchronizing the environment as well as development, right? So in 1987, the Norwegian president, this Gro Harlem Brundtland, which was the Prime Minister of Norway, this assignment was given to him under her leadership. She was the chairman of that committee, just to study the environmental status of the things. And that Brundtland, who was the Norway Prime Minister that time in 1987, she submitted one report, Our Common Future. Again, our common future is not only for the Norway country, for the world level. What will be by her report is popularly known by the Our Common Future. And under this, she talked in 1987, and under this, she talked about the sustainable development. We realize that there is a need of the practices which we are going to adopt for any development activity, it should not exhaustively use our resources, natural resources, so that once it exhausted, then our future generation will be deprived for that natural resources, which work as a fodder, which work as a fuel, which work as a food and all these things. So sustainable world in fact come from the broad land report, our common future, and she focused on the sustainable development concept. And under this, the biodiversity was the major concern. The biodiversity, we all know that bio means living things and its diversity, which we call it in the Jaiva Vividita. So this is a biodiversity is an indicator for the development of the country. The country which has a much more biodiversity, they will develop very fast. Because why they will develop very fast? Because they have the plant species, animal species, which are going to help to the population of that country. Now, ethnology word we call it, the tribes are the most of the people, they believe that earlier there was a plenty of the plants by which we can cure our diseases, right? This is the most popular is a healthy neem for antiseptic purposes. Even in today itself in villages and tribes, for any burn, for any cut, they use the neem paste, neem leaf paste. For the any other antibiotic purpose, they take the haldi powder with the milk, all the water. So this all we get from the herbs. So this protection of biodiversity is also important because due to climate change, the plant species or animal species which is existing today may get destroyed by increase of 2 degrees centigrade, 3 degrees centigrade over a period of time. So we also know that all the time we can't get the mango. For mango, there is a specific season. And due to this season, flowering in the mango trees takes place, then formation of fruit takes place. Then by specific temperature, the ripening of fruit mango takes place, right? And for at a particular temperature, germination of wheat takes place, germination of paddy takes place. It is not like that any time we can get any crop. So that's why there is a Rabi, Kharif and all these things, seasons. So this all season is governed by broadly by the temperature. Temperature is a very important for governing summer, winter, monsoon season and all these things. So once temperature increases from our existing pattern, then the things will be really, really very devastating. So we have to take care of the climate change. Why I am saying what people can do, like it is predicted that by 2050, Indian demand from the air conditioners will be quite higher, 9 times higher than the African countries, only due to this by the AC and uh, mall temperature. Now you see, we all prefer to go travel in train by AC. We all prefer to visit mall and use mall maintaining the temperature by air conditioning. So for maintaining, running this air conditioning, we require electricity, much more electricity. Earlier, people used to go to the hut, local hut, which is along with the road street. There was no fan, no AC, nothing was there. But for our comfortable, we are using air conditioning. But at least air conditioning we can avoid. We are not going to die But as a status symbol, as a comfort, the people, those who are living in the villages, they are not aware what is the air condition and what is the temperature. They are comfortable because they are adopted in that condition. But same way, we have also adopted in urban areas, in cities. We can't go to any other shop where there is a no AC. We can't go to the other than mall because in mall temperature is a comfortable. We can't travel in the ordinary train coach because there is a no AC. We have to go on third AC. So like this, we have to thought for it. We have to think for it, and we have to find out what are the gases, what are the factors which are responsible to the climate change. Because once temperature increases, all the glacier will melt and flooded all around the seashore and along the river bank, and then increase in temperature, again germination of crop get affected. Then increase in temperature will again further invite various type of the insect, where like a mosquito. We don't feel all the time mosquito, but during the summertime, there is a mosquito because at particular time this mosquito breeding takes place. When that's why we say that in cooler we should not leave the water because it will be mosquito breeding point. When winters come, then impact of the mosquito is almost negligible. So when temperature further increase, then again there is a new type of the insect for control of the malaria, which is caused by mosquito biting. It takes 100 years to develop a medicine and vaccination and other precautionary measures for tika and vaccination and all this thing. Now scientists also feel that the corona 19, COVID-19 episode which has taken, this may be due to the change in the climate. So there may be in near future new type of the bacteria, virus, insect may damage to us because that temperature may be favorable for them, which they cannot grow and survive today because there is no, you may say, sir, some temperature summer is in summer more, winter is less. But the span of temperature also govern to the for the breeding and for the germination of seed and plant. Right? So I think 30 minutes is over. Now, those who have any questions, please ask without any hesitation. If you have any question, any doubts, any extra you wanted to know. Because the time slot was given to me by organizer 30 minutes. So I think Mr. Majumdar, I have completed my things in 30
Yes,
minutes.
sir. Yes, sir. Sir, can India economically switch to alternative energy sources? Because India is estimated to be zero carbon emission country by 2070. That's why
Yes,
it is important to uh, give the source and change the source of energy. Is it possible,
yes,
sir?
because we don't have other options. Of course, once new technology come, it is expensive. It is not affordable to the all the person because its production is a very less, right? But slowly we start developing because we have to import plenty of things like lithium chips, etc. You might have heard for the electric vans and all these things required. So we are importing from other countries, but slowly we will develop. We will find the resources which is where it is available, and once its mass production takes place, the price will come down because we don't have any alternative na? To mitigate the climate, to control the climate. Certainly, we have to adopt the sustainable technology which are responsible for emitting less greenhouse gases, not less, almost negligible greenhouse gases. So we don't either we have to survive or we have to pay money. So by all the problem is caused by the urban area. The rural people, those who are sleeping under the people tree, under the banyan tree, they are living without fan. They are comfortable. Neither they are using any vehicle nor they are emitting any gas. Right?
Okay.
And their relatives, their other known person are mostly in the surrounding. But the people, those who have money, we are moving from one place to the another place. Huh? Like you might have come from West Bengal to Delhi. You are
No, sir.
from West,
Sir, I'm from Bangladesh, sir.
oh, you are from Bangladesh. You
Yes,
from
sir.
Bangladesh to
Delhi,
Delhi
sir.
you came here. So now you see how much the carbon footprint you have generated when you use plenty of vehicles, sometimes bus, sometimes train, sometimes by airplane, aeroplane, then here. Then being a student, you are living a luxurious life. And once or twice in a month, you must be visiting into the mall, right? You are using plenty of gadgets for manufacturing and for its production. A lot of energy is required, है because energy is simply ability to do the work. So without energy, we can't get. And energy we get from the electricity to the industries from where the things is manufactured. But the person, those who are living in the village farmer, they are neither they needed nor they are aware.
Yes,
So
sir.
they are well acclimatized. So we have to develop technology. Your answer of your question, yes, today we are in a scarcity, but our scientists has to work, find out the solution, cheap solution, so that it should be viable to everyone. Because nowadays you are in Delhi, you might have seen number of the nameplates on the vehicle on the scooty, which indicate that it is a electric vehicles. Right? Have you seen it?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Green
sir.
color. So now it has started slowly, slowly after 2030, it is expected that in 7 years, almost 50% will be covered by the electrical vehicle. And in another way, we have to save the petrol also when we are using electrical vehicles. Because you see, now the scenario of the Israel and this Gaza fighting, Rus and Ukraine fighting, these all are going to fluctuate the price of the petroleum product. And due to increase of the price, certainly the petrol, diesel, kerosene cost will be much more. So once you are using the electrical vehicle, we were not concerned with the petrol and diesel. The people are working, we have to develop this technology once we have to mitigate.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
If anyone have any question, please ask. Please feel free to ask, sir. Yes, Amar.
Yes, am I Prakash? You
Yes,
are
sir.
welcome.
Good evening, sir. Thank you for joining. Thank you for the session. I really enjoyed it. Was very informative. I had a so for following on what you said, I had a question that if have you so you are a professor at a university. What are the challenges, environmental challenges that students on universities particularly face? That is
Face.
my question. Yeah, what are
No,
the problems, environment problems on universities in India?
no, environmental problem of universities in India, yeah, what a student can do while learning in university for protection of the environment.
Sir, both like sometimes on universities also there are some environmental issues. For example, we discussed this some time back. We have wastage of electricity, improper usage of facilities and all, dumping causing pollution. So that and how students can help in
Yeah,
solving problems.
good. So this is not the only problem related with the industry. The problem is that ki everyone, whether he or she is in university or not, we have to conserve the electricity, whatever minimum we can do. Nowadays, you might have heard the green building concept, right? Solar passive building. Green building concept is that during daytime you don't require electricity. And solar passive building is that means you have to construct a building in such a way by the raw materials where it should work in the summer cool, and in winter it should work as a warm. So scientists are working already, plenty of the materials which are available. So in this way, in this manner, what you can do, you minimize the consumption of electricity, right? So conservation is a very important, not only in the university, hostel and colleges, when you are at home or anybody is at any place, once he or she feels that I can work without electricity bulb, without tube light, without LED, so we can complete the work. So what happened? We cover our rooms with the curtains and put on the light. So if we remove the curtain, then sufficient light will come. And another answer of your question is that earlier we were using tube lights, which was having 40 watts. We were using the electric bulb, which was having 60 watts, 100 watts. But nowadays we are getting the LED bulb. So this LED bulb in 9 watt consumption, it gives sufficient light equivalent to the 40 watt of the tube lights. So university or in hostel or the students, they must change their tube light with the LED bulb. So suppose from 40 watt to 9 watt means you have saved 31 watt of the electricity. Another question, solid waste disposal, domestic waste disposal, hostel waste disposal. So now there is a technology by which the hostel waste, hostel mess waste, this is a huge quantity. It can be used for the manufacturing of manure, organic manure, as well as it can be used for the biogas production. So we can convert this waste into the resource. Right?
Sir Mendes, Jaime have a question. Yes,
Huh.
Mendes. Please ask him. Please unmute yourself, Mendes.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. Mendes Jamie, my name. I'm from
Jaime. Yeah.
Angola, West Africa. Yes, I have one question, sir.
Yes. Yes, you ask.
Yes. How can do something for my country? Can suggest me something uh,
Many.
regarding global warming in my country?
Your Many you are what for your country from economic terms, for economic terms, social terms, or the climate change concern.
Economic in environmental terms.
So as I mentioned, देखो, Africa is a rich of the natural resources. You might be aware, but only by natural resources development cannot take place. And for development, we require money. Without the good economical condition, development cannot take place. So what we have to switch over to the development, and that development should be not at cost of the environmental degradation. Whatever the mineral resources available there, we have to leave it for our coming future generation also. It should not be that only we are digging and exporting to the other countries and all. Now temperature itself is higher in the Africa as compared to the other European and other countries. So in this way, we have to go for the further technology which are responsible
Can we use it?
for not polluting to the environment. So basically, we have to adopt the model which should protect the environment as well as I told us, Africa, you have very good biodiversity, you have natural resources, but the issue related to you with your African country is that in advanced development, and once you have money fund, then development can take place, right?
Thank,
Ma-
thank you, sir, for explanation. I have another question also, sir.
Yes, yes.
How can we use our resource more well?
Use your
Resource more well.
resources.
Resource, yes.
The resources you have to optimize. As I mentioned, the coal is one of the natural resource which is available underground, and this coal is used for the electricity production, right? The much more consumption of watt, again you can convert into the megawatt. So means more coal is required for production of more electricity, thermal electricity. But when you reduce your consumption requirement, just say I hope कि in your hostel, in your room, you might be using LED bulb, right? So it costs 90 rupees, around 100 rupees, and you get 2 years warranty, 1 year warranty period. So the light which we get, you get from 60 watt, same light illumination you are going to get from 9 watt. So by this way, 31 watt you save in one room. You can calculate number of room in your hostel, number of rooms in your university, number of rooms in Delhi, number of rooms in NCR, number of rooms in our country, India, or in your country. So certainly, after calculation, you will find out that this electricity requirement dropped very, very low level. But earlier there was alternative like LED bulb. So that's why we don't have option. So we have to create the option, right? So that people can use it. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much,
Thank you,
sir.
Mendes, for your question. Sir, I have a question. Is can human can human do anything to stop melting the glaciers? You have discussed the glaciers.
Only human can do,
Sir,
not can.
what can we do?
Yes. Why glacier is a melting? Glacier is a melting due to increase of the temperature. That's all. And why temperature is increasing? Due to the emission of greenhouse gases. Who is e- emitting greenhouse gases? These industries are the human activity, right?
Yes,
So once, because of course one of the greenhouse gas is a methane also, which are generated from by the animals, right? But it's very less as compared to the carbon dioxide.
sir.
But only our human activities are responsible for emitting greenhouse gas, and greenhouse gas is responsible for climate change, and this climate change is responsible for the melting of the glaciers.
Sir, can we fight climate change without investing financial resources? Is there any option available?
Yes, option available. If we all go in the village and live without electricity, we don't use any vehicle. We can
So,
cut down, minimize the thing.
so you are referring that if we started ancient Indian technology, it will
No, no,
help.
not instant. No, no, no. I just now I have given example. Okay, there is a need of innovation or
Innovation. Yes, sir.
development of technology. Just I have given you example of LED bulb, right?
Yes, sir.
So since earlier that type of bulb was not available,
Yes,
so
sir.
we don't have option. We have to buy only the tube lights, which 40 watts, right? So, but now same light we can get from 9 watt. Number two, we are using the vehicles which mostly ply by the petroleum product, petrol, diesel. Now we are shifting to the electrical vehicles. Now we are working on the biofuel, right? Which are not responsible for emission, air pollution emission. And biofuel means utilization of agro waste material or waste material for production. So if we are using this agro waste material for making biofuel, so means we are conserving coal, which is underground, right? What is our aim? Our aim is to get the light. Our aim is to run the wheel of the vehicles. Whether it should run by electric mode or by biofuel mode or by hybrid mode, right? Now we shifted from in Delhi, almost all buses shifted from the diesel to the CNG, which is a less polluting. So like this, it's a require innovation, technology development, and moreover acceptability by people. And cost is no doubt it should be viable to everyone. If something come under pocket, then we will buy. Sometimes, if no alternative is available and it is a costly and we want to buy, we have to buy. Like when someone get any accident or affected by any disease, once he admitted in the hospital, when there is no alternative, to they have to pay by selling up the land, by borrowing some money from relative friends, all these things, because there is no alternative. The same way, when we have to think for our world, our earth, our motherland, our country, we have to minimize it. Then we have to opt the alternatives.
Thank you, sir, for your answer. Anyone have any question? Yes, Amar Prakash. Please unmute yourself.
Sir, I had a question. There is a I had a question about coal mines or mining in general as an activity. So mining causes pollution a lot, and it is a big problem in India because of mines. There is a lot of pollution. There is no pollution because of mine in most other countries as much as there is in India, I think. And but there is the pollution, but in India it's just higher, I think, as per the
Then,
statistics. So is
okay.
there a way that mining can reduce? We can reduce the pollution by mining.
Yes, yes. If you remember in my starting, I mentioned that ki mining is such an activity, whether it is a coal mining, bauxite mining, copper mining, zinc mining, or limestone mining. Mainly, you are talking, I think, about the coal mining, right? So, this all mining activities require environmental clearance from the Ministry of Environment and Forest at central level, or when it is at a lower scale, then it's a required environmental clearance from the state level expert committee. So for this environmental clearance, you have to do environmental impact assessment. Under this environmental impact assessment, major component is the environmental management, which look the mitigation of the points from where environmental deterioration takes place. So you have to plan, you have to give a management plan. Yes, I am going to do mining. We cannot say, mining is a stop all over the country because it is a polluting, right? But you have to do the mining in such a way, you have to prove that to the expert committee in your environmental impact assessment EIA report that I am going to do this mining and we will adopt such and such methodology which will be not responsible for causing any pollution. Right? Now you see, you people are in Delhi. In Delhi, crackers are banned. During Deepavali time. Have you heard
Yes, sir.
the level of pollution will increase? But at global level, no one is talking about the bombarding between Gaza and Israel. How much emission is taking place? No one is talking about the Ukraine and Russia. How much emission is taking place? How much radioactivity is going on this thing? How much damage is taking place? Because atmosphere, we cannot divide it or make it boundary. Like this is the India and this is the Bangladesh. This is the India, this is the Pakistan. This is the India, this is the Nepal. So ultimately, we cannot confine air in the boundaries. Okay, this air is in Indian territory. Our Indian air will go to the Bangladesh, and Bangladesh air will come to the India, depending on the wind speed and direction. So Amay, your answer is that whatever activity you are going to do, you have to opt precautionary measure before doing any activity. It may be mining or anything, and none of the activity you can do without getting environmental clearance. Suppose you have your agricultural land and you feel that in my agricultural land there is a gold, there is a copper, there is a coal, and this land belongs to you. This is your ancestral land. You start digging and extracting minerals from there, but it is not like that. Once apart from agriculture, you are going for any other activity, you have to opt, you have to get the environmental clearance, and environmental clearance is given based on the environmental impact assessment study, which is evaluated by the top-notch expert of their domain. And once you get the environmental clearance, then only you can do foundation, which we will call bhumi puja or anything to start anything. Right?
So, Amay, I think you got your answer. Sir, so we are ending the session. Thank you for joining us and share and make a knowledgeable discussion. Thanks for joining such a short notice.
Okay.
Thank you all for.
No,
Yes, sir.
no. And one thing I would also like to say
Yes, sir.
कि Mr. Vaibhav has my email ID, right?
Yes, sir.
Whenever you have any query, any doubts, any help, if you wanted, you can write me mail, right? He has
Yes, sir.
my
Thank you so much.
WhatsApp number also. You can also, all the participants, those who are here, they can just discuss with me without any hesitation and all this thing.
Okay.
है ना? Okay,
Thank
again,
you so much.
thanks to the organizer, Vaibhav and his team for
I will
giving
write
me
your
an
mail
opportunity.
on chat box, sir.
And, and I hope for the purpose
Yes,
which
sir.
you
Maybe
have called
Mendes
me,
want to say
it
anything.
might have solved your.
Yes, Mendes.
Yes, I want to say thank you so much, sir. Your sections will definitely help me in my future. Once again, thank you, sir.
But sure, you have to. We don't have to think only for ourselves. We have to think for our future generation by adopting sustainable technology. Whatever we are using due to our forefather, ancestor. If there is today is a big tree which is producing oxygen, it is not planted by us. It has taken 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, 60 years just to give oxygen. And in COVID-19, you might have seen the situation due to the oxygen, right? See, what is the importance of the oxygen? So oxygen is a very important, and I request all of you कि whenever is your birthday, whenever is your any special day, you must plant a tree in your university, in your campus, or any place, and try to adopt one tree when you are in the campus, at least 1 year, 2 year. After leaving the campus, leaving the hostel, assign this responsibility to your junior, and you instruct him कि you have to plant another sapling, but you have to take care of my tree also. When you visit after 10 years, 15 years, then can you believe how much happiness you will? So this will be used by your future generation, coming generation, right?
Okay.
Oh,
Thank you all for
thank you.
joining us today for this the important discussion on environment and climate change related issues. Remember that we all have a role to play in promoting sustainable practices and fighting the climate change. Let's work together to create a better future for ourselves and future generation. Thank you once again and have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Okay,
Thank you
bye.
so much, sir. Now we are ending.